About a fragile peace deal in Pakistan's Swat Valley, cleric Sufi Muhammad has apparently left the region to protest the government's delay in allowing the imposition of Islamic law, a key part of the ceasefire that ended the fighting between Taliban and government forces. Stan Grant has much more on the situation in the Swat Valley in World's Untold Stories, The Battle for Pakistan. It starts right now.
Cell phone video captures justice Taliban style. A 17-year-old girl flogged for associating with an unrelated male. This is Pakistan's Swat Valley, just a 2-hour drive from the nation's capital. Pakistan's government ceded control of this valley to the Taliban as part of a complex peace deal. But now there are growing worries the Taliban have ambitions far beyond this place.
The challenge for the army is to...
CNN's Stan Grant reports on a land of astonishing beauty and brutality, where people are flogged in public, schoolhouses set ablaze, and aid groups dare not tread. It is here that two mullahs, a father and a son-in-law, have firmly established their own world order as the Taliban redraw the lines in the battle for Pakistan.
Only a few hours' drive from Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, is the Swat Valley. The Pakistan government's rule effectively ends here. The Swat Valley lies in the country's northwest frontier province, a strategically important area where the majority of people are Pushtoon. These hardline Islamic militants are celebrating because the Taliban now controls the law and the land. In the main city, Mingora, opponents have been beheaded and schools and public buildings burned to the ground. The Taliban's version of Islamic law means regular beatings for what it deems crimes, listening to music or dancing. Men must grow beards and women must stay indoors and not work. Even young girls cannot go to school. The militants' bloody fury has bent the Pakistan government to its will. To bring peace, the army has agreed to put down its guns. The Taliban allowed to impose strict Islamic or Sharia law. The story of the siege of Pakistan's Swat Valley centres on these two men, the old cleric Sufi Muhammad and the firebrand Maulana Fazlullah. Both are followers of a strict, hardline version of Islam. Both believe in the power of the gun. They have used the most brutal force to destroy their opponents, and they are committed to an Islamic jihad against the West. Very few images of the two mullahs exist. CNN has obtained this rare video showing Sufi Muhammad moving among his followers. This is the man on whom Pakistan is pinning its hopes for a lasting peace by negotiating a ceasefire deal. The younger Fazlullah filmed greeting supporters in his inner sanctum, a handshake and a smile. This is the man who rules by fear. Maulana Fazlullah is often called the FM Mullah because he is fond of taking to the radio, broadcasting his message of jihad. It is out of his own mouth that we get the clearest glimpse into the mind of this man.
Girls will not be asked about their education and professions in the afterlife. When they're in the grave, they'll be asked about Islam.
When the Taliban won control of this valley from the Pakistan government as part of the ceasefire deal, Fazlullah was on the radio again, making clear just who was in charge, even issuing warnings to the United States and its allies that the Taliban would continue to expand its control.
This is a victory for the Taliban, and this will continue as long as the war in Afghanistan continues.
So who are these men, so mysterious yet so powerful? Zahid Hussain is a Pakistani journalist and author. He has followed his country's battle with militant insurgency closely.
Sufi Muhammad was jailed when in 2001 he took about 5,000 people to Afghanistan to fight against the American forces. He was released recently from jail, and some of the people, particularly in the provincial government, feel that he can be a counterweight to his son-in-law, which is basically a complete fallacy.
Hussain describes Fazlullah as a high school dropout and brutal opportunist who seized his chance at power by marrying the mullah's daughter, now creating his own legend.
He would ride on a white horse and tour the area and ask people to pull out their daughters from his schools, and also basically he would address largely women, telling them to pressurize their husband or persuade them to grow beard.
He thinks he's a demigod.
Yes, he thinks himself a demigod.
The Pakistan government's response so far has been to give in to his demands, call the ceasefire on the Taliban's terms, and reach out to Sufi Muhammad, a man who has done jail time himself for leading a Taliban campaign in Afghanistan. Pakistan is gambling that the older man can win over the young Fazlullah and bring the Taliban to the negotiating table. The pro-Taliban cleric Sufi Muhammad is an unlikely candidate for peacemaker. Yet here he is, in one of his rare videotaped public appearances, surrounded by thousands of followers in Pakistan's Swat Valley. It is his popularity that the Pakistan government hopes can allow him to break the reign of terror imposed by his own son-in-law, Taliban leader Maulana Fazlullah. Even if he served jail time for leading a Taliban fight in Afghanistan, Pakistan deems him what it calls a reconcilable, a more moderate militant, a Taliban the government can trust.
They believe that Sufi Muhammad has enough support base there to persuade the people as well as his son-in-law to give up arms, which is not going to happen.
So now we have Sufi Muhammad again going up the ladder. He is the good, the militant, the good Taliban, and he is going to restore peace there.
Ayesha Siddiqa is a professor who studies Pakistan's military history.
It's lethal. Then everybody gets encouraged. I mean, hang on, if Fazlullah can get some guns and a few men and get what he wants, and what does stop you and me or anybody else from doing the same?
The deal with the Taliban has been widely condemned. The US State Department says it is troubled and confused by the Swat ceasefire deal. It falls to Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi to convince the world this approach will keep his country, a nuclear power, stable.
We will come out of it. We will defeat them.
The Foreign Minister sat down with CNN to explain his policy of what he calls reconcilables. That is, militants deemed moderate enough to work with.
You've talked about the need perhaps to negotiate with elements of the Taliban. In some minds, that would almost appear abhorrent, to negotiate with people who can behead foreigners, who can kill your own people.
There are reconcilables and there are irreconcilables. And I categorized these people who are beheading people, who are bombing schools, right? Who are blowing bridges, who are challenging the writ of government as the irreconcilable element.
I suppose my point,
we will not talk to them. But everyone living in Fatah, everyone living in Swat, every Pushtoon is not a Taliban, is not a terrorist.